Okay, today, as I promised, we're going to look at beautiful product. Okay, beautiful piece of software called how? Tableau. Okay, Tableau. I told you before, it's a purely visualization tool, right? But it does it so nicely and beautifully. I trust that we have Tableau installed on all these computers, right? So look at your desktops. Do you see the icon that points to the Tableau? It should have this. This is an icon right there. I have it on my machine. It has like white field and a bunch of blue crosses. You see that? Okay. If it's not on the desktop, then go to the Start menu, All Programs, find Tableau. It should be 10 point something. 10 point what? 3. Yeah, 10.3. Cool. My version may be different. I don't know. Go ahead and launch Tableau. There you go. You should see that, right? Or maybe there is a screen that says registering or something like that. If it asks you to register, just go ahead and dismiss that, okay? So this is the initial screen that you should see, correct? All right, well, let me point out a couple of things first, okay? On the left side of the home screen, you see a bunch of different options for the connect, right? So that's basically bringing in the data. And you can see that Tableau can read data from Excel file, from simple .txt text file, okay? Access, can you guess what that is? Access, Microsoft Access, database, right? And then other files. So you can connect to a bunch of different files, right? So it can read data from, let's see, another Tableau, Excel worksheet. Yeah, not a lot of options here. You can also connect to, oh, it's right here, to a server. So what's the difference? Here, if you have the data in the file is a file, it's one thing, right? It's a simple collection of data inside of that, and you have it on your computer, okay? But you can connect remotely to a server somewhere installed, okay? So if you have a connection capability to see a new server, right, somewhere on campus we have Oracle database running on one of the servers, and you can totally connect to the Microsoft SQL server, or you can connect to the MySQL, or Oracle. So these are actually ones of the most popular databases out there, right? Microsoft SQL Server is the kind of extended version of Access, okay, from Microsoft. Much more powerful, of course. MySQL, how many of you are familiar with MySQL or at least heard about that before? MySQL is the database that powers your favorite website. Which is it? Facebook. Facebook is the largest website that runs from purely MySQL. So all of your crap that you post, okay, including pictures, your likes and dislikes, all the comments, all this other junk that goes into this website is getting stored in the gigantic MySQL database. Anyhow, and what I wanted to show you is a couple of examples. What can be done, or what other people did, excuse me, with Tableau. On the left side, you see this link that says These of the Week. These is a short for visualization, right? Let's go ahead and click that link. It takes us actually away from Tableau to the Tableau.com, okay, public Tableau.com. So these are the visualizations that were created by other people and posted for the public to see. So anybody with access to the internet can see them. That one, you see the same thing as I see, right? Okay. That one is a little bit hard to see, so let's go back to gallery. Let's see everything that's out there. So people created a bunch of different visualizations, and that's what they uploaded. Singapore presidential elections analysis. Look at that. Fitbit throughout pregnancy. So apparently things change in the first, second, and third trimester, or whatever it is, right? So fruits and vegetable season. So very cool visualization. But I wanted to show you one of them. So go ahead and click on Featured. Energy in America. That one's kind of nice. Okay. So go ahead and click on this visualization, and then it loads, and you see something like that. Okay. So what does that look like to you? This thing. USA, map of the United States. Somewhat stylized, right, but still kind of cool looking. And you can see that if you go to the bottom part of this V's, you will see that the energy is basically, here is the history, right, from 1990s up until 1914. And all these six small charts represent how the energy was used in the United States, right? So what do you see? Coal was actually the king of the world, and we discussed it right before, probably. Most of the energy that we consume in the United States is generated by burning coal. So that is the most used energy source, but look at that. Starting at about 2008, 2010, started to go down, right? Natural gas was steadily on the rise, right? Nuclear energy was steadily on the rise. Renewable energy, actually, it was kind of lately experienced exponential growth, right? Hydro is kind of up and down, doesn't go anywhere, right? And petroleum use, you can see declining, right? So, let's take a look at Virginia, for example, right? So the way I actually read this thing before, so if the state is highlighted, if there is a gray, that means that this specific source of energy generates minor part of the energy consumed in the state, right? So what can we see? Natural gas is predominant, and if it's highlighted in color, that means that it's a dominating source of energy in that state, okay? So you can see that natural gas, the state that uses that the most is Rhode Island, right? Actually, if you switch to coal, you can see that coal is still dominating. So I'm going to click down there on the coal, all right? And the map will update itself, hopefully. Doesn't want to update itself, right? Maybe it's taking too long. Come on. Apparently my thing is frozen, so it doesn't want to update. Yeah. Did you get to update yours?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what do you see in the coal?
Seems like West Virginia dominates in coal.
Yeah, but how many states, roughly speaking? It's like a lot of states or not so many states use coal? Yeah. My thing froze.
It says 48%, I think.
48%? Okay. 48% of all states, right? Are using coal.
I don't know if that's all states or all energy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my visualization froze up. So, it says error occurred while processing, waiting server response. Okay. Now let me try it again. Coal. Yeah, now it updates itself. Yeah, there you go. So coal is used by a lot of states, right? So I can see that there is a lot of this dark color, right, where the coal is dominant. And then you can click on any state, like for example Virginia, somewhere here, right, Virginia. And basically what happens is, once I select Virginia in the map, it also updates the charts at the bottom, okay? So it shows basically that coal is also on the decline in Virginia, natural gas is on the rise, nuclear is kind of trending up, right? Renewable was up and down, but lately it's trending up, okay? Hydro is steady, and petroleum, well, it's kind of low these days, right? Okay, so this is just one example. I mean, on your own time, you can browse this, storage, and there are a lot of really cool visualizations out there, okay? So hopefully, we're going to be able to create one of these things today. So, let's get started, y'all, okay? Go to my CNU, right, Scholar, and in our course materials on Scholar, I created a file, a folder that says Tableau, okay? So go ahead and open it up. And download this file, Global Superstore Orders 2016. That's an 8 megabyte file. That's pretty large, right? Pretty large file. Go ahead and download that, okay? And when it downloads, just go ahead and double click on that and it will open up. So I'll do the same thing. I will download this thing, right? Unfortunately, I have to do one more step because I'm running Windows 8. In Windows 8, when you download any Microsoft Word file, it treats that as an enemy, right off the bat. So any file that is Microsoft Excel or Word or PowerPoint, when I download it, I have to unlock it first for security reasons, and only then I can open it. It's kind of weird. It's a security built feature into the Microsoft Windows 8 and probably 10 systems. Okay, I think I got it. So I'll just go ahead and show it in the folder. Here is my file. I'm going to unlock it and open it up. So double click when it opens up. And here is the file. And now let's go ahead and save the file on the desktop. we can easily find that file. Okay, so go to the file, save as, computer, and then I'll place it on the desktop, global orders 2016. You do the same, okay? How are we doing so far? Anybody behind? You able to catch up? Keep up? Okay, good. So I'm actually going to close this file because I don't need it. I will open my stuff, the file, in Tableau. Okay? So switch back to Tableau. And now I'm going to connect to Excel file, right? So go ahead and click Excel. And it will tell you, well, where is your Excel file? Well, it's on the desktop. I know that. That's where I placed it. So Global Superstore Orders 2016. And let's go ahead and open this thing. Kaboom. And Tableau will think about that for a minute, and it will say, you see the screen, right? Everybody on the screen? Okay, good. Right there is the list of my worksheets. So it says that in this file, I found 2 worksheets. One of them has orders, another has people who placed these orders, probably, right? But I want to take a look at the orders. So very easy. I go ahead and click on the orders, and now I drag them and drop them here where it says drag sheets here. Kaboom. And then it thinks about that for a moment and opens up the view for me, right? The data view. Loading data, and there it is. Well, you can see that on the top, it's pretty much like what we saw in Jump, right? The same structure. It looks like a spreadsheet with names of the variables on the top, in the first row, and then every individual record is a record, right? That's basically one order placed by one customer for one thing, okay? So what kind of things do we have? If you scroll actually to the very end of it, to the very end of data, you will see that some of our variables are numerical or continuous, right? As we discussed them, such as profit, shipping cost, quantity that was ordered, how many units, right? And then there is a number for sales, apparently in terms of US dollars, right? So these are numerical variables. Some and other variables actually are not numerical. For example, city, where the order was placed, postal code, segment for that specific product, right? Market, state, country, etc. Okay, cool. Well, let's get started, right? We loaded the data. Now it's time to get the data visualized. Let's create some visas, all right? Cool. Tableau can do 3 things. We're going to do 2 of them, okay? Thing number 1 is we can create a whole lot of charts or visualizations from Tableau, okay? You see on the bottom, there are 3 buttons, right? Well, yeah, one of them basically, not one of them, but you have sheet number 1 already created for you, right? So Tableau says, well, you're going to have at least 1 visualization, at least 1 chart for crying out loud, right? So we know that you're going to go there. But you can create more, right? And if you point it to the next to that, there is a button that says new worksheet. You're going to actually create a number of them, okay? Then once you created several worksheets, several graphs, charts, whatever it is, you can put them on the dashboard, and you can create thing number 2, dashboard. And then thing number 3, we're not going to go there, new story. Story basically is you can use your charts and dashboards and kind of configure them in a certain way and place them in a sequence so that you can later use it in the presentation. So that your charts, they illustrate some point, like they follow a plot line. That's why it's called story. So you can put the same dashboard looking differently just to emphasize certain different aspects of your data, okay? So we're not going to do that. All right, so let's go to sheet 1. Let's create our first visualization, y'all, okay? All right, so first of all, let me point out that all of our variables, all of our columns were split in 2 different groupings, right? Grouping number 1, right there, they're all colored in blue. They're called dimensions, okay? Such as city, country, customer name, market, etc. These are the things that are typically non-numerical. They're categorical variables, okay? That's how we want our data to slice and dice, by various combinations of these categorical variables, okay? And then what I'm going to exactly represent, what I'm going to slice and dice, is down there, it's measures, okay? Measures are typically continuous. And you can see that discount, it's a number, right? Profit, quantity, sales, shipping cost. Well, amazingly enough, latitude and longitude is also there, right? So these are the things that we want to represent on our charts. These are measures, colored in green. And these are the things that we want to slice and dice the measures by. Okay? Dimensions. All right. So now let's start with, for example, displaying our sales data versus time. Okay? Very easy. It's literally a drag and drop environment. Okay? Literally very easy to use drag and drop environment. So I'm going to pick up the sales and just, if you hold it for too long, it kind of starts renaming it. So go ahead and click and drag it, and let's go ahead and drop it into the rows right there. Okay? Bam. By the way, kind of couple of terminology, I guess, right? Once you drop a field in any of the places, it kind of creates this, a rectangle with rounded corners. They call it a peel, actually. Okay, once you pick up a variable and drop it, so this is a peel right there. Okay, these two things, columns and rows, the places where you drop your peels, they're called shelves. Okay, and right here where it says pages, filters, and a whole bunch of other weird stuff, right? These are called, I believe, cards. Okay, yeah. So just terminology that Tableau is using. So here is how sales look like. I can swap them around, and swapping around actually is very easy. I can just drag and drop it into a different zone, right? So if I drop it from rows to columns, it just basically swaps rows and columns, and it shows me the same thing but different, right? Now let me go back, okay? Let me drop it into the rows. All right, what can I see from this? If I hover the mouse over this bar, I can see that total sales were slightly over $12.6 million, right, for this company throughout the whole history. These are sales aggregated across years, right, across all the years, across all the products and product categories, across all the customers. That's everything the company ever sold. Okay, let me see how the sales evolved through time. So, order date. You see the order date? Right there. So if I click order date and drop it into the columns, look what happens. Basically, and let's go back actually for a second into the data source. Data source still can be viewed right there at the bottom. There is a place, right, where you click and go back to the data. Order date, where is order date? Oh, I need to scroll probably, right, to find it. Yeah, right there, order date. So you can see that order date is recorded as standard thing for the dates, right? Month/day/year, okay? Now let's go back to sheet 1. Sheet 1 basically says, yeah, that's cool, and let's not represent order date just like date yet, okay? It aggregates to what kind of units, all the dates? To the year, right? So basically, that's default Tableau behavior. It says, if I have a date, let's start with top level aggregation. That would be a year, right? That's the biggest time unit that I have. But do you see the plus sign on this peel? It says that years can be drilled down into smaller time units. So if you click on the year, it expands further, right? It says, well, now it's broken down into years first, and you can see that, right? 2012, 13, 14, 15. Okay, and every year is broken down into the quarters, Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. And that happens for every single year, right? Okay, cool. What do we see? Well, first of all, let me go back. And collapsing it back is actually easy, right? I can just go ahead and click. Right now it's not a plus, it's minus, right? So if I want to collapse it back, I click the minus sign, it closes out. So what do I see in terms of the sales per year? What do you think? I can tell that my sales were increasing over time, right? From year to year, I was doing better and better and better. Cool. All right, so now let me go ahead and expand that. Now I have years and quarters, right? And let's go ahead and click on this peel that says year, okay? And I'm going to drag it out and drop it into the color. You see that thing? It's called card, right? These are shelves, these are cards, okay? So I'm going to take the year peel and drop it on the top of the color. And it will basically show me years by highlighted by different colors on the same chart, but it's still broken down by quarters, right? So my Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 is still there, Okay. All right, and I can resize this thing. So if it looks to me too narrow, I can just hook up the border, make it wider. Okay. Is everybody able to follow? Keep up? We good? Good. Okay. Cool. What do I see? What can I see? My first year, 2012, is the lowest, and this is next, 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 and next, right? So my first quarters, and second quarters, and third quarters, what do I see? From year to year, my sales, every quarter, compared to the previous year, were higher and higher and higher. So I never went back, right? There was never a crossover so that next year, quarter 3, for example, is lower than this year, quarter 3, right? So every quarter, my sales are increasing. Every year, they're increasing, and every quarter they're increasing as well, right? Compared to the previous quarter, same quarter, previous year. Okay, cool. Well, let's drill down even further, right? If I go ahead and click on the plus button, the quarters expand into months, right? So first quarter, for example, contains January, February, March, then April, May, June. And if I expand months, there is still a plus sign, right, on the peel. If I expand month, and it gives me the daily sales. But would you agree the daily sales look messy? Doesn't really communicate me any information. Maybe it does, I just don't see it, right? So, not good. Let me collapse it back, okay? Bam. Like that. Okay, well, you know what? How about I plot the sales, I get rid of quarters and look at the monthly sales, okay? Can I do that? Hopefully I can. Let's go ahead and try that. So, simple as that. Click on the quarters, drag them out, and drop them in any area outside of your plotting, okay? Bam, eliminate. So it's literally drag and drop environment. What do you think? Cool, right? You can manipulate things really easily. Okay, so these are my monthly sales every year, right? What do I see? Do they display any kind of pattern? My sales. Well, here's what I see consistently. January, after January, there is typically a drop, right? Every year displays the same thing. There is a slight drop. And then sales go up, then they peak in June, and what happens after June consistently from year to year? They drop down, right? And then next month they recover, and then they kind of up and down, still growing towards the end. But there is this drop, right? Unexpected drop coming from June into July. Happens consistently from year to year. How do we call that? If you see same pattern happening over and over at regular intervals. Seasonal behavior, right? So how about I'm going to rename my sheet 1, double click, simple as that, and I'm going to call it sales seasonality. Sales seasonality. Okay? Any ideas why that might be happening, y'all? While sales are high in June, and then all of a sudden they drop in July. Anybody works in the budgeting office? Worked before? Here's how humanity, well, at least in the United States, operates, okay? There is such thing as fiscal year. You probably heard about that, right? And the first rule of fiscal year is what? By the end of fiscal year, you have to spend all of your budget, right? That's how human society works. Why do you want to spend all of your budgeted money?
You don't lose it.
Yeah, so the next year you don't lose it, right? Whoever gives you the budget, like CNU, for example, right? We have departmental budget here at CNU. If we underspend our budget, next year the business office will say, you didn't need all that money. Good, guess what? We're going to give you less, right? So therefore, you have to spend all of your budget pretty much, okay? So at CNU, for example, the fiscal year ends on June 30th. Next fiscal year starts on July the 1st. So that might be an explanation, right? In June, people just spend all of their budgeted money, right? And then in July, the next fiscal year starts, the purchasing basically drops down, right? Because it's a new year, you don't have to spend all your budget right off the bat, right? Okay, cool. Now, let's do another thing, okay? My products, this is everything that this company is selling, okay? And this is a global company, believe me, you will see that, okay? Probably we're not going to go through this exercise today entirely. Something will spill over onto Monday, I guess, okay? So, categories right there. Do you see in the dimensions, my very first thing that I see is category, right? Okay, so I'm going to pick up categories and drop them in the rows. Kaboom. So now basically Tableau separates things for me into 3 different categories. And I can see that all of my sales come from what categories? I can be selling furniture, right? Or I can be selling office supplies, or I can be selling technology, right? And do I see the same behavior across 3 different categories of products that I sell? Yeah, pretty much, right? I see that there is a drop typically in February, then there is a rise, then it peaks in June, drops in July, and recovers later, right? So every category behaves in a similar way, okay? How are we doing so far? Everybody able to keep up? Okay, so let's go ahead and save it, okay? Well, you know what? Let's not save it. Probably what will happen is, at the end of this class, I will save this visualization and upload that to, what's it called? Scholar, so that on Monday we can download it and just keep going, okay? Oh, you know what? On Monday we're going to have, probably we're going to go over the quiz, right? Okay, that'll take even more of our time. Okay, anyhow. Let's create now a map, just to show that we are a global company, okay? So I'm going to create a new worksheet. So go ahead and click on the button that says New Worksheet, okay? And get this. Tableau can do a lot of different charts, okay? The previous one, I didn't even specify for Tableau which type of chart I want, right? It kind of assumed that I wanted a bar chart, and later it became a line chart. How did that happen? Who decided? Tableau decided, right? Depending on what type of variables you place into the shells, it kind of decides on the best practice. So it has some rules programmed in, and it kind of picks up the right chart, or what it believes is the right chart for your data. But I can pick, actually. And guess what? All of the charts are right here. Oh, that's not true. Not all of them. Most popular ones, okay? You see the button that says Show Me? Go ahead and click on that button, and it will show you a bunch of different options. So right now it doesn't show anything really, okay? Because I didn't do anything, right? I can look at suggestions. So let's do this. I'm going to plot same thing. I'm going to plot sales. What I did in the previous chart, I plotted sales, right? How much money we generated in revenue. I didn't plot profits, right? Now I want to look into the profits, okay? So let's do this. I want the Tableau to tell me, suggest to me, what might be the best representation of things that I pick. And I want to plot them by the country. How about that? So I'm going to click country. It's one of the categories in the dimensions, right? One of the variables in dimensions. And then holding control is just like everywhere else. If you want to pick multiple things, hold down the control and pick another one. So I'm going to pick sales. Kaboom. And look at that. I have highlighted 2 variables, right? And here, in the list of things that jump tells me how I can represent that, it immediately kind of shows me that, hey, some things that you might consider, right? And we can just click through them, just to see how they look like. So let's start with this one. It looks like bubble chart, right? So I click on that. Look at that, it's bubbles, right? So bubbles, every bubble represents a country, obviously, right? And size of the bubble represents, guess what? Sales, right? So large sales, big bubble, small sales, small bubble, right? So where are the majority of sales coming from? US, right? And then we have what? Australia, France, China, Mexico, India, Germany, etc. United Kingdom, right? Oh, okay. Well, let's try me another one. This looks like what? A bunch of box and whiskers, right? So every dot is a amount of sales, right? And this box I can't even see, right? So I can see that there are a lot of outliers, right? Obviously, a lot of countries that generate very high levels of sales, right? That's probably not very illustrative for me, right? Do you see one of the charts is highlighted? It has kind of like a blue borders around that, right? So that is what Tableau believes is the best chart to use for that combination of data. And let me go with this suggestion. So I'm going to double click on that one. And so that we get this out of the way, click on the Show Me again, so it hides basically, okay? Is that cool or what? It created a map of the world, right? And we can zoom in, just scrolling, right? Or plus sign, minus sign. So there is 1, one bubble per country, right? Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to edit things a little bit, okay? Go ahead and click on the, how is this thing called? It's called a card, right? Size of the bubble of this, right? In this case. So go ahead and click on the size, and you can see the sliding ruler, right? You can make bubbles smaller or larger, so let's kind of make it, how about 60%? Something like that, okay? So I'm going to have like moderately sized bubbles, all right? And also, let's take care of color. So go ahead and click on the color card, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and give the border color, okay? I don't want it to be black. I mean, I can try, right? If I click on the black color. Yeah, let's make it kind of a dark gray, all right? I'm going to go at the end of this spectrum and pick up a dark gray, something like that, okay? And now what I can also do, this basically represents what? Sales by the country, right? Well, country, typically every country has multiple subdivisions inside of that. In the US, subdivisions are called states, right? Yeah, in Russia, subdivisions are called regions, right? So how about that? I'm going to pick up a variable state. Is there a variable state? Yes, there is, right? And I'm going to pick and drop it right there into the map, okay? Variable state, drop it into the map. And Tableau thinks about that for a second, and it says, fine, every country where I can find subdivisions, administrative subdivisions, such as states or regions or however you call them, right? I'm going to break it down so that, look at that, in the United States, different states generate different sales, right? What do you think is the biggest state in terms of sales? California looks like the biggest, right? Then what do we have else? This one is New York. Then Texas looks like generates a lot of sales, right? And then a whole bunch of smaller states, right? Well, and that one is pretty decent, Washington, okay? In Europe, you can see that United Kingdom, quite a number of sales, right? Then there is France. Germany is also fairly sizable. El Salvador is sizable too. But sales is one thing. Remember we discussed that when we created bubble plot in this class. We said that bubble plot is very powerful, right? If you have x and y axis, remember the example that we used, SAT math versus SAT verbal, right? So you can kind of see if there is a dependency. Then every dot you can make it smaller or larger, so use a size as a piece of information. And we used, I believe, oh God, what did we use? Percentage of people taking SATs, right? And then you can color each bubble, which will give you yet another piece of information, right? So here we have sales, right, by location. So location is one piece of information that we're getting out of this. The size of the bubble gives you the idea of how large the sales were, but if we color the bubble in profit, it'll tell you if you're making money or losing money, right? Sales is one thing, but you may be still losing money, right? So how do I do that? Very easy. Do you see the profit variable at the bottom? And because it's continuous variable, it's among the measures, right? Not the dimensions. Agree? So I go ahead and click on profit and drag it and drop it on the top of the color card, right there. Kaboom. And what do we see? We see that not all the locations are making money, right? And you can actually change the color pattern. Do you see the same pattern, by the way? I have green and red kind of thing. What do you see? Orange? Orange and blue. Okay, let me see if I can edit that. Very easy. I have to go to the color, right? And edit colors. So here are my options. These are most typical ones. So you're saying that you have red and blue, right? So if I apply something like that, is it similar? Or is it different? Oh, there is orange and blue? Okay. Well, long story short, you can change the color pattern, right? So what I did is I went to the color and said edit colors, and here from the list of built-in patterns, I picked up this one, red versus blue. It says red, blue diverging, okay? And then I hit apply, hit OK. So, in other words, if the bubble is red, that means that you're losing money, right? And then gradually it becomes blue, and blue means that you're actually making money, you're profitable. So you can see that even though sales in Texas, for example, are large, right? You're still losing money. And another good thing is you can go ahead and kind of hover the mouse over the bubble, right? And it will tell you all the information, country, state, that's two variables that we use, right? Country, state, and then we size them by the sales, and we color them by the profit. So all of these things it shows you, right? We generated 170,000 in sales, but we lost on that almost $26,000, right? And you can pan around actually the map. Now, here's one thing that you can what I found is typically, how do you scroll around in Google Maps? You just click and drop, right? Click and drag the mouse, right? That's how you move the map. Here, if I click and drag, it's actually a selection tool, okay? So, for example, if I want to select, I don't know, all the United States, I can just go ahead and select it on the map, like that. And then it selects only these bubbles, right? So the way kind of to browse around, well, there are a couple of things. You can move the map, and for that matter, what you have to do is, right there is kind of a square with this triangle, right? If you hover the mouse, it shows you a bunch of options. So this one, I believe, is kind of scroll the map. So you can move the map around, right, if you want. Okay? Or another thing, there is a search capability. Do you see that? Search button right there. So if I want to find India, for example, I go to search and literally type India and hit OK, and it zooms onto India. Okay? So it's a searchable, scrollable map. How cool is that? Oh my God, so cool, right? And did I spend a lot of efforts and energy building this map? Not at all. It's literally 5 clicks, right? Happiness is 1 teardrop away, right? So, and if you want to kind of reset the map, get it back into the unzoomed state, there is a pin right there. So if you go ahead and click Reset Map, zooms out, okay? Shows you the entire world. So let me go ahead and double click that one. I mean the worksheet, right? And I'm going to call it, how about global sales and profits? Because that's what I'm showing, right? Global sales and profits. How are we doing so far? We live? Ellie?
What about at the very bottom it says 16 unknown?
Yeah, 16 unknown. What do you think that means? We don't know where it is, right? So basically, it's the question of cleanliness of data, right? Cleanliness is next thing to godliness, right? That basically tells me that out of God knows how many observations, I don't even know, right? Every record is a sale, right? Out of all these probably thousands and thousands of records, 16 somehow did not have the location attached to them. So when we placed this data onto the map, there were 16 records that we could not identify where to put them, right? And that basically begs the question, should they be included or should they be excluded, right? The data that you get is not perfect. Never the case, right? So if any of you will end up working as data analysts in your future companies, that's probably the issue that you're going to be working with day in and day out. The data that you're getting has some omissions. In our cases, actually, it's not bad, okay? 16 observations are missing. Sometimes you get a data set and half of the data is missing. Then what you're going to do, right? So in our case, it was not that bad. We were missing only location data about 16 orders. So that's basically FYI kind of thing that Tableau tells you, okay? Very good question, right? So I'm just going to have to accept it, but if it would be saying that 15,000, observations are missing or unknown, well, yeah, then I probably have to look at that and see what the hell is going on. Maybe I'm not getting the data or something, right? Okay, let me show you another cool trick, okay? So, how are we doing so far? Clear? Okay. Let me show you another cool trick, okay? I want to compare Southern Hemisphere sales versus Northern Hemisphere sales. How can I do that? That's a legitimate question, right? Or I may want to compare, for example, South America plus North America versus, I don't know, just Europe, okay? But excluding Asia. Okay, but now I want to compare Southern versus Northern Hemisphere. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to recreate the same map and use it in a certain way. Okay, it's going to be an approximation, not an exact science, but... So go ahead and right-click on this tab that we just renamed. And right there, it should say Duplicate Sheet, right? Go ahead and duplicate that. It'll create the same map, a separate sheet for you, right? So what I'm going to do is drag out all of these things, sum of profits of here, sum of sales from here, and probably reduce the size. It's just too big for me, I don't know. I'm going to make this bubble smaller so that they seem like dots, or maybe a little bigger dots, something like that. Okay? All right. So where exactly is the border? Where is the equator between the southern and northern hemisphere? Hell, I don't know. I never took geography. So, but let's go ahead and do that. Let me go to Google Maps, just for the heck of it, okay? Maps, Google, just like that, okay? And I'm going to, this is us, right? Zoomed in on Christopher Newport University. So I'm going to zoom out more. Okay, so here is the line that divides our planet into two halves, right? Where does it go? Well, you can see that it goes just southern part of Brazil, kind of in the middle of Africa, right? And then kind of through these islands, right? Indonesia and New Guinea and Australia, they're all down there, okay? So this is approximately where the line goes. Fine. So here's what I'm going to do. Oops. Where is my stuff? Right there, okay? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into this selection, bunch of tools, right? And right now it's, I believe, dragging tool, right? I can drag the map around. So go ahead and pick up rectangular selector. Kaboom. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And, well, no, actually. So I want to see everything, right? So the line was going approximately right here, right? And that's what I'm going to do. I will click somewhere right here and just kind of, a little more, right? Like that. Okay, so I'm going to select all the countries that I believe belong to the southern hemisphere. Okay, kaboom. So this is my selection right there. Okay, just selected in one quick motion all countries in southern hemisphere. And if I point on any of them and kind of leave the mouse in place for a second, it shows me what I can do with this thing. Right? Do you see the paperclip symbol? Yeah, so point at anywhere, really, this selection, and then point to the paperclip thingy, okay? And go ahead and select country, okay? So all of these countries were selected, and by doing that, actually, we created a new dimension, a new variable, okay? So it was added right here. You can see country group. Do you see that? Country, and in parentheses it says group, right? This grouping that I just created, that was sort of, I created a new variable, grouping of countries, right? And you can see also country with parentheses group in the list of my dimensions. Everybody got that working? Okay, good. I can rename that, right? It's grouping, right? But what do you think is the natural thing to call this? Southern hemisphere, right? Because that's what the grouping is, right? So I can right click. Is there a rename? Yeah, there is a rename. So I can call it Southern Hemisphere. Hemisphere. Cool. And now I don't actually need this. Remember, I created the duplicate of this worksheet just for this purpose, actually, to create the grouping of countries that form Southern Hemisphere. Now that I got the grouping, I can get rid of this worksheet. So this sheet 3, right? Right-click it and say rename. Well, not rename, delete. I don't need it, right? So I go back to this thing, and now that I have a grouping, I can actually see how my sales look like Southern Hemisphere versus Northern Hemisphere, right? What can I do for that? Well, let's go back to the sales seasonality. We still have sales seasonality, right? The tab that we started with. So go ahead, switch to the sales seasonality. And what I'm going to do is, look at that. My columns are actually months, right? January through December. How about I separate Southern sales, Southern Hemisphere sales versus Northern Hemisphere sales? I can do that. What do you think I should do? Take the variable that's called Southern Hemisphere, which I just created, and drag it into the rows, right? Or columns, right? I want two separate columns, Southern versus whatever, everything else, Northern, right? Bam. There it is. So my first column says Angola, Argentina, Australia. These are my southern countries, right? Southern hemisphere. And other basically means that's northern, right? So what do you see? First of all, overall sales. What can we say?
Higher in the northern.
Northern hemisphere drives higher sales, right? Overall, sales in southern hemisphere, you can see they're mostly flat. Maybe there's a slight trend going up, right? But not a lot. But overall, trends are more trending in the northern hemisphere. Second, do you remember this seasonality pattern that we saw? Every February sales drop, then there is a peak in June, drop in July, another peak in August. And that is still the case in the northern countries, right? We can see the same pattern. February drops, then there is a peak, June drops in July, goes up in August again. Southern hemisphere, does it have that kind of pattern? Do you see anything quite like that? Nope, not really, right? It's all going up and down, but it's rather random, right? So this seasonality, for some reason, and I don't know why, but it is present only in the northern sales, right? So that's what we were able so far to tease out of our data, okay? All right, I believe we're running out of time, so how do you like Tableau so far? Is it yay or is it nay? It's yay, right? But this yay comes at a price, I told you, right? The Tableau is freakishly expensive, okay? But you can probably, you start seeing why a lot of companies like Tableau, right? It has it has very short learning curve, right? What we spent playing like less than 40 minutes playing with different options in Tableau, and you practically fearless tigers of Tableau by now, okay? I need to show you a couple of more things in Tableau, and then after that, that's it. We're going to move forward, okay? All right, so that's it for today.